First, I want to say sorry for my really raspy voice. There's been a lot of hockey.
I'll take care of the intro. So we're going to go for a long walk today on Laura's journey. By we mean everybody but Laura. So today is the next installation.
Way to dig. Hold on. Way to dig that knife in there.
I mean, you. So just moving on.
You guys will understand in a second.
Yeah. So today is another installment on Laura's journey of her surgeries, procedures. We are about 4 weeks almost out from her surgery, and kind of the expectations, what's been happening, what's been said, what's not been said, as well as we'll wrap it up with a implementation for PTAs and things that we learned from listening to Laura's story. But sit back, relax, enjoy a drink, enjoy Laura's raspy voice, because this is all her, and I'm just gonna be chilling.
Yeah, again, sorry guys, it was game 6 of hockey. It was a tight one, but don't worry, my team pulled out. So let's go ahead and let's just jump into it. Well, guess I'm not jumping. The rest of us can.
Everybody else can jump and walk, but Laura. We'll find out. Let's go.
You're listening to the PT Assistants Podcast with your hosts, Ken
and Laura. Thanks for joining for another exciting episode.
So we are back with another update on my foot. Again, like we said, we keep you guys posted. This one might not be as long, but it's definitely interesting. So again, I think the very first kind of update we did was the day after?
I think you were 24 hours.
24 hours. So in the meantime, I'll kind of give you guys a quick recap of what I was told of how the recovery process should go. This way it makes a little bit more sense going forward of what is different.
Also, I just want to say, like, the reason why we're following this so closely and kind of like keeping an eye on it too is Laura got the procedure that Laura got done is called a Tenex surgery. Mm-hmm. And we haven't heard of it before it was offered to her, as well as our PTs that we talked to. No one has heard of this type of procedure. So I think the reason why we're also kind of like just keeping up to date, see how Laura's doing, is to see how accurate she was told versus how she's feeling. And if any of your patients kind of say, oh, I'm also going to get Tenex done, you can be like, oh, I know somebody who got that done.
Yeah, and going through this process, we'll kind of get into a little later. It's going to bring up an issue that we probably run into, and we hear a lot from patients too. And it's just something to keep in mind. And I'll kind of, again, address that as we get a little closer to it. But it's definitely, the only PT I know who knew of this procedure was a PT who had previously treated from this doctor. It was the only reason that he knew about it too. So it's definitely fairly kind of new in a way in our field. So that's why we're following it and all that jazz. But so going into it, just a refresher, I was pretty much told I should be good to go, and that it's an in and out procedure. It technically is outpatient. He made it was like I could even do this in the office if I wanted to, but insurance doesn't cover it if I do it in the office. So it has to be an outpatient procedure. So he's already kind of setting it up that it's low key, in and out, really quick. It's not that big of a deal. He told me that I could start walking on it and go back to work the day after I have it. Recovery time was going to be about 2 weeks in the boot, 6 weeks in total recovery. That it's a small incision. Actually, I don't even know if he told me about an incision. No, he did. He said a little small mark, and then that, it's mainly just going in and out with the needle and all that jazz. So right off the bat from work, I really didn't plan on taking it off because of the fact that I planned it on a Wednesday. I'm off Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday. I only work 4 hours in the morning because that's all our clinic is open right now on Friday. So we do half days on Friday. And then I was like, well, if it's still a little achy, I can work through a half day. And then I will have Saturday, Sunday off. And then Monday we'll be back to normal with work, which that was almost about that's technically 4 days recovery time in a way, which he made it sound like it's really simple to get back and going forth. So I was like, that should be plenty of time to really start getting back. And by that time, like, I really should kind of be off the crutches, using the boot more. Um, shouldn't it shouldn't be too hard. I've
Yeah.
worked with a boot for so many years, like working with a boot, I'm so used to that. That's fine. Um, and I can work around a little bit with a knee scooter if need be. It's not my preference, but if it was a day, I was like, I can get away with like a day, or I thought a half a day. So everything was going well. Like we checked in. I kind of, if you want to learn more about the actual procedure and what it was like and how it felt like, check out our first follow up. We'll kind of link
I'll
that
leave a
below.
link. Yeah, I'll leave a link
Yeah,
somewhere.
we'll leave the links to all the kind of series below. Um,
Man,
but
it
I'm
was
not
like
going to
the
go
very
too much
first
into it.
one.
Yep, the Tenex one too.
Oh, I thought
He
you were
had to
thinking
put.
like the one we released like in July of last year.
Oh goodness, of why I'm
Laura,
doing all
why
this.
Laura left the field, and
Oh,
now
you
why
can't
she's
find
back.
that, but we'll link specifically just the 10x journey with it. But if you
All right,
do listen to Laura's story, that will tell you
from
why I'm at.
from our 24-hour follow up episode to where we are now, you've had one follow up with the doc, right?
Yes, so I'm technically past the 2 week mark. So
So are
I
you where
followed.
you're supposed to be? What
I
did the
am
doc
not.
say? Why are
So
you not where you're supposed to be? Did you do something again, Laura?
well,
Did you
then
accidentally weight
this.
bear when you weren't supposed
I
to?
did not. That did not happen.
Are you sure?
Yes,
Because
because he made me
you
question
sleepwalk
whether or
that
not I
much?
did. But you
You
know
don't
what? I
sleep,
looked at everything.
you don't sleepwalk?
No, not that I know of. Do I sleepwalk, Jeremy? He's in the room. He says no. But
Okay.
honestly, he could be cold out and I could be sleepwalking. Nobody would know. But there's no indication that I sleepwalk. Um, so after the 24 hours, I started walking on it. I was using 2 crutches, kind of slightly increasing the weight bearing as tolerated, wasn't having increased pain afterwards, watching for all that. Things that we look for of progressing farther and farther, of adding a little bit more. None of it was really painful for the first week. Everything seemed like it was going fine. Work, I was able to tolerate, using the crutches a little less, helping out a little bit more. I did take more time off than I thought. They were able to find coverage because it was tougher than I thought off the bat. Like, it was just a lot more being down. It was achy. It was swollen. Monday I worked. Did I work a full day Monday? I'm trying to think. That Monday afterwards. Monday I worked a full day, and then I went in Tuesday and I was feeling a little sore and the pain was creeping up, and so they're like, "Well, we had backup coverage for this afternoon if you want it." And I was like, "You know what? Let me just take it. You guys already have it planned. If it's gonna work out, I'd rather take it off and get up off my foot and just elevate, because it was getting a little sore by the end of like mid work day, having a back to back work day. And so then I took Wednesday off, and Wednesday at home, which was a week out. And I was following the protocols that he gave me with all the physical therapy protocols, all the ways to progress, when I'm allowed to progress, all that kind of stuff. It literally states on there 0 to 2 weeks, phase 1. So I was following that. So I hit the week mark, which was at the stage where I was technically allowed to start discharging the crutches to a normal gait. I was not allowed to discharge the boot because it said weight bear as tolerated in boot times 7. So I was doing really well with my weight bearing. So on Wednesday, I started just progressing a little bit off of it, taking those shorter steps as long as they weren't really painful. Pain wasn't increasing afterwards. So like kind of from, 10 steps from the bed to the bathroom type thing. Or, from the bathroom to the sink, like shorter distances, not trying to push it a lot, but just kind of tolerating it. And it did really, really well. And so Thursday came along, still was kind of using the crutches, went down to 1 crutch, and same thing, was kind of uh, just using, non-weight bearing on just a little bit of movement. Well, all of a sudden, on Thursday afternoon, my pain really started to spike. Now, my foot had been down a lot more that day. And then we even went to, I believe, the movies. Was it that night or Friday night? I think it was Friday night. Did we go to the movies Friday night or Thursday? I'm trying to
Went
remember.
Friday night.
Friday night. So Thursday, like, it was achy a little bit. So I backed off and I went back to, like, kind of using the two crutches just to let it relax a little bit. Well, then Friday I woke up and it was really, really sore and the pain started to continue and progressively get worse. So I backed off how much I was weight bearing on it. I backed off of everything. And Friday, my PT worked on it a little bit, which kind of helped. Then on Thursday or Friday night, we went to the movies and we thought we had the recliner seats, but unfortunately it was not the recliner seats. So my foot was down for the whole entire movie, which it wasn't horrible, but it got a little achy and swollen. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm not doing anything over the weekend. So like Friday afternoon, I had it elevated. Saturday, I had it elevated. Sunday, I had it elevated, but the pain continued to get worse. And I was
You
backing
didn't have
off
to
of it
like
each time.
compress it or anything. Like you didn't have to like wrap it.
No, I had no wraps, no nothing on it.
But
I just
you
have.
weren't told to wrap it.
No, I wasn't told to wrap it. I just used a sock and ice and elevation and the boot
Okay,
because I'm
just for clarity purposes. When you say sock, was it a high
just a
top?
normal
Was it
sock.
a
No,
low
no,
cut? Was it a
just
no show?
it was I don't know, they varied. It
I'm
was always ankle or above.
just for clarity purposes. I want to know:
It was
was it
always ankle
above or
socks or
below the
above.
ankle? Did it cover the incision? Did it not cover the incision?
It covered the incision because
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
the incision rubbing on the boot's not like always the fun, comfortable
But they didn't tell you you
sensation.
have to like wrap it just to help with the swelling and
Yeah, none of that. And elevation kind of
almost
worked.
like
And
instinct with us now.
yeah, well, the thing is though, is
Press
my
and
boot is
height,
an air boot.
press and elevate.
My boot's an air boot too, so it adds a little bit of compression in there.
Yeah, but you didn't wear your boot all the time.
It was mostly in the boot, and
Okay.
so the only time I was taking the
Even when
boot
you're home?
off, yeah, even the only time I take the boot off is really when I take it out to elevate, ice, and then do my range of motion activities, which I was allowed to do range of motion, non-weight bearing, with pain-free range of motion, and that's what I stuck to. I didn't try to push it. I stuck to that. So I did all that, and then by Monday, it had gotten to the point where even putting the toe of the boot down, it was so tender, and it was so tender getting into the boot, it was so tender taking it out of the boot. Like it was killing me. So I went to work on Monday pretty much non-weight bearing on it because it was just hurting so bad at that point. I did want to be in tears. There's a couple that were shed probably at some point because it just started hurting so bad. So I went to my PT and I was just like, hey, today I can't do it. Like I may need coverage. Something's going on. I don't know what's going on. Now, if you remember back, because this is important just to why I was also a little more concerned and I made sure to kind of back off the way I did. If you recalled our last episode, I did tell you guys about how the needle broke. And so we were on the lookout if anything was out of the ordinary. He wanted to know. So I had messaged him Monday about needing to, I left them a message of how I was supposed to get scheduled that week anyways, because Wednesday was my 2-week mark. And then I also sent him an email because they give you his email address that if you're having any symptoms or any increased discomfort or anything to email him. So I
Just
emailed
like
him of
anything
what
that
was
you get
going
prepared.
on. Yeah. And so I emailed him what was going on, and then they had called me to schedule follow-up. Well, his office is still learning. I think they've got a new office person because they're still learning his things. And like, no, you don't need to be seen till like 6 weeks. And I was like, no, that's not right. And I was like, and plus I'm having a lot more pain, like a lot more pain. And so they're like, okay, well, let me talk to Dr. Barnes when he's done with his patients. And then, we'll give you a call back of when he wants to see you. And I was like, okay. So work gets it covered. I go home. I'm elevating. I'm just off of it. I call him And so he gives me a call back. Whenever he calls back, he always calls back and I'm talking to him, which is the nice part. So I let him know what's going on, and he goes, "Well, I want to see you sooner than later, of course, so let's get you on the books for Thursday." So again, this is last week. Um so I
Yeah.
went and saw him Thursday. And again, I had done nothing Tuesday because I took off Tuesday work. They had to get it covered. Tuesday, Wednesday, and all day Thursday, all I did was have my foot up and elevated and literally was in bed because I wasn't walking on it. It was just so painful. And that was helping it helped decrease it a little bit. So I went in to him on Thursday, walked in, and this already tells you right off the bat. They're like, "You're still on crutches? Like people are walking in here at 2 weeks." And I was like, "Yep, still on crutches." Because when I told him, he's like, "Well, back off on the weight bearing." And I was like, "Okay, already doing that, but I'll back off even more." That
Yeah,
was
as I
his
say,
thing
like,
right
did
off
you
the bat.
just like kind of decide yourself? I should probably keep like less weight on it.
So I kind of, as it progressively got worse, I backed off. I went from like being, 100% weight bearing in a way with slight discomfort. It wasn't even pain. It was just that like getting back on your foot feeling, which I know that feeling very well. It's not like it hurts. It's just not the most fun because you're putting pressure on something that
Light
has
'em
had
up.
no pressure for like a
Light 'em
week
up.
and had surgery.
Light 'em up.
To then having pain to backing off to like, okay, only putting 75% on, then to 50%, then to 25%, then to toe touch, then to nothing.
Then to non
So
weight
like
bearing.
then I progressed lower and lower too, like less and less on it. So when I went and saw him, uh, we talked and he was like, "What do you mean you're doing this? Why are you?" And I was like, "Well, this is what it says." And he goes, "Well, what protocols are you following? Are you following the physical therapy protocols?" And I was like, "Yes." And he goes, "No, like you shouldn't be putting on that weight too that soon." And I was like, "Wait, well, huh? That you
Yeah, like,
literally
excuse
handed
me.
me the protocols. This is what it says." And he goes, "Well, I thought, you." I was like, "It literally says to start weight bearing as tolerated in the boot. Like, you even told me I should start getting rid of the crutches. Like, you said nothing about weight bearing to me." And he goes, "Well, I thought being in this field." And I'm like, so I was irritated off of that because he felt like he was trying to justify kind of what was going on and kind of not, instead of just being like, you're abnormal and
Do
you're
it.
not following. I must justify, and you must have kind of overdid it. And it was like, no, I really listened to everything. So he decided, because of my long history, he looked at everything with the ultrasound. I have giant holes right now, which should be there. So based off of where he cleaned up, there's some giant gaps, space. That's just open space right now where all the bone used to be, the calcifications used to be, scar tissue used to be. That's just kind of open space right now. And so what we're figuring what's going on is my swelling was pulling in those areas and starting to cause the severe pain. And the time of healing is just taking longer because of the extent of my history and then how much work he had to do. So because I'm taking longer and everything with my past, at that appointment, he decided, "I want you fully non-weight bearing for 2 weeks. I want no pain, no weight bearing. Um, 2 weeks. I want you to be, we're going to go more conservative route now because of the fact that things were getting worse." So that's kind of what we're at. It was it was hard because again, I felt like I was being blamed for following things that I was actually given to work with and the information that I was given up front. Um, but I don't think it was meant to be that way, but that's how it definitely came across. And I know for a fact I've heard patients of this before. They come in and they think that they did something wrong or that, you know, um, they're the ones who screwed up when a lot of times too, sometimes the doctor is not very clear. And so if we have
Yeah,
those
more of
clear
like a
cut things for them,
communication. More of a
yeah, we want
communication.
to make sure we're trying to be the helpful mediator of like I guess what's the word, translator of what the doctor actually means and what what the patient should be doing type thing, because we kind of get a little bit and we understand it more. But currently, I'm back at work. He said I was allowed to work if I felt comfortable with it. I'm still working, but I'm completely non-weight bearing, and I'm back on my scooter, which is very challenging. Today was my first full day of being back on the knee scooter. So I did 9 hours, and I will tell you, it is not fun. It's not fun. I can do it. I can make it work. I didn't have my foot felt fine. It kind of got achy because it wasn't up at all. About lunchtime, so I stuck it up, put some ice on it, took my boot off at lunch, and that helped a lot. And then it was doing well up until about the last 2 hours. The pain started kind of creeping up and creeping in. But I made it work, and I just tried to, like, at that point, try to kind of get it stretched out, put it into a different position, which kind of helped a little bit, but it was hard to do again when you're trying to move around, get patients in the correct position, and set them up on their next activity, on all that kind of stuff. But made it work. It is definitely different because the expectation versus what is going on was not set. By no means did I think, oh yeah, and I was supposed to be out of the boot at 2 weeks. I'm still in the boot. At no means did I feel like I was going to still be in a boot going into a month. Um, we have plans to go to Universal Studios this week. I had to talk to him about that because I was like, well, our ride's
Yeah,
okay because,
plan
again, I
wise.
was supposed to be
Yeah, it
up
just
and walking.
hasn't really gone the way that it was expected.
Yeah, and I don't think that there was proper, like, hey, this is the way it's going to go, but with your history, there's a chance that I might be changing some of that. It was definitely set up to make it seem like it was going to go a lot smoother, a lot easier, which again, I should have known nothing goes smooth with me, nothing goes normal with me, but
It's the hair
um
color.
yeah, I definitely would have prepped better. And it's hard because I don't like to feel like I'm the person who can't pull their weight at work, and so it really, I have a hard time asking for help or accepting help, because I'm like, no, I don't want to be an extra burden. Like, I'm not here to add more work to people. um and sometimes that doesn't work out as well as you want, and so I have to remind myself it's okay to ask for help, and I'm trying to, um a little bit more of just like, hey, can you hand me this, can you grab this for me, or can you set this person up for me, versus trying to do it all myself. And again, I'm not trying to take advantage of it. My PT will probably actually tell you I don't ask her enough to help out. She tells me that all the time, and I was like, I've gotten better, I asked twice today. And she's like, yeah, twice out of 9 hours. Woohoo. And I'm like,
Hey, that's still twice.
yeah, that's what I told her.
Better than none times.
That's exactly what I told her, actually. She laughed at me. And I communicated a little bit more today, like when I was getting a little sore, because I did slow down a little bit, and she kind of helped out a little bit of just kind of cleaning things up, which was really helpful. And kind of setting patients up a little bit more, which was super nice. But it's definitely different. I'm supposed to be getting an X-ray. I gotta actually check on that. I'm supposed to be getting an X-ray because he does want to make sure that there's no metal pieces that broke off inside. And so he said if I get an X-ray done, they'll light up like a Christmas tree. His words, not mine. But I do follow up with him on a video chat, so I don't even have to go in next time, but with a video chat, and we'll kind of see what he says from there. My guess it's going to be again winging to weight bearing. That's the way it should be, at least. It should not go full gun. So I'm also expecting to keep the boot for a longer period of time than even these 4 weeks. So that is the troublesome part. It's hard to go from being weight bear as tolerated to completely non-weight bearing because I want to put my foot down. And the days I'm not working, it feels actually really good. Yesterday felt nice. I literally did not a lot. We went a little shopping. The knee scooter, if anything, is actually starting to bruise my knee. and I'm having some
Seems like if it's
irritation
not
there.
one thing, it's another.
Yeah, and there that's the thing that you have to be mindful for too, is like when I worked today, sometimes it wasn't most of the day, it wasn't even my foot that was bothering me, but it was just like every single step, the step like one thing that would take like one step would take me like 5 different steps to get like prepared. It wasn't just a quick like, "Hey, throw the towel in there." It's, "Hey, wheel yourself over, get the towel over the edge as you're trying to carry it in. Then you got to turn yourself around, and then you got to back." Like it sounds so simple, but at the same time when you're trying to do that over and over again versus just like a quick step throw in, it's a longer process. So having to work around that was a lot more challenging than expected
So I
by
was
all
gonna say, so
means.
like, what are like to sum up? What are some things you learned? Some things that you expect, and some relatable things for PTAs in their clinics.
Yeah, so I think hold on, now you gotta give I'm also
Like, you want
tired.
to do one at a time?
That was too many. Yeah, that was too many at once.
I'm
My
not gonna
brain
lie, I
can't
already kind
process.
of forgot what I said.
See, if
I
you forgot what you said, then how am I supposed to remember
I
it?
said something along the lines of like, as far as like summing up,
Yeah.
some things that you expect going forward, some things that PTAs can implement as far as like in the clinic,
Well, let's go with the first
learning
one.
experiences, and go from
You're
there.
still going them all at once. Okay,
Because
hold the
I forgot
rest.
what I already said, so I'm trying to remember. So I'm trying to.
So for going forward, what I expect a slower recovery. I don't think this is going to be that quick 6 weeks. I'm hoping it still can get back on track, but based off of just we're already set back 2 weeks technically, if not a little bit later, because now I got to kind of repeat week 0 and week 1, I guess, and week 2 type thing. Um, so I expect this to be a longer process than it is. Um, I wish I would have dove into it, but honestly, everything I saw pretty much said the exact because I did research prior to this. Everything I saw pretty much said the same thing of just like the intensity and how long you'll be walking, weight bearing, all that kind of stuff. Everything followed what we thought it was going to be like. I definitely would say, with my history, it could have been maybe portrayed as like hey, you've got a lot more going on. This might not be the normal one. Set a little bit better expectations for me from the doctor, but also just in general, I should have done it for myself too. Think I was more hopeful. And since no one else was trying to like set those expectations, I didn't set them. So I definitely think that going forward, it's going to be a tough week and a half left of non-weight bearing. Um, but we'll get through it. I hope at least I get through it. I have to get through it. Uh, but I think eventually it will start to progress better. So
All right, and then the second half of that for the PTAs, something. There's one thing that you mentioned that I want to mention as far as something PTAs should keep in mind when working with patients, just in general.
go
But is
for
there
it.
anything that you have that at the top of
Well,
your head?
you do yours first.
Well, one thing you said was as far as communication between the doc and you,
Mm-hmm.
protocols. Like we've mentioned it before, especially like with I think one of our post-op episodes. A lot of the times, like you have a surgery and then you have this piece of paper that's just a post-op protocol. Like that's it. And you
Mm-hmm.
give it to the patient, you give it to the PT clinic, but not everybody falls into that perfect standard of this is exactly how it's going to go. So for me, I would say just keep in mind your patient, keep in mind their history, keep in mind their age, like their activity levels. Like there's a lot that
Yep.
goes into it, just this hard sheet of paper. Like, hey, this is your protocols. You have to follow this to a T. But there are other factors that you need to keep in mind. Obviously, we can't just do our own thing. Always check in with your supervising PT and all that. But that's just one thing that really struck out to me while you were explaining your
Well,
journey here.
ag- agree. And the crazy thing is, my paper has those protocols of expectations to meet before you can move on to the next phase. And technically, I did nothing. I really looked at it. I did nothing outside of what any of us would have followed, honestly. It just, my body decided we were going to not like it, and we were going to do it all at once of not liking it versus showing it sooner. But the other thing too is I would say is don't forget things can get lost in translation too. And this goes both ways. The doctor might have not been very clear with the patient. The doctor might have said one thing and the patient took it another way. So there's always different things to read. Listen the best you can, respect both ways best you can. Always, when in doubt, follow the paper, the protocols, because you can always fall back of like, hey, this is what I had written. This is my written orders from
Yeah,
you.
like in no way should like my saying try to ignore the paper and like, oh, this
Yeah.
doesn't
No,
matter.
I
Like, it's
agree.
still what you should
But
follow.
also, I get what you're saying.
There's a
Like,
lot more
you
things
need to
that
set
go
the
along with it.
expectations.
Yeah,
Yeah. You need to set the
that was just
expectations
my
correctly.
2 cents.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that you're right on. And again, as much as we even can go forward and be like, hey, this will go super easy and this should be fine, just know that, like, set expectations correctly. Like, you do want to let the patient know, and I'm not saying like let them put a Debbie Downer on them of like, this should be quick and easy, but just let them know. Just, I even always pull out just remember, every person's different. You might not follow exactly the order, or you might be a little quicker, you might be a little slower. Like, each person has their own healing time. And that's kind of how I try to set their expectations of, I'm not trying to kill them by being a Debbie Downer with the expectations, but I'm also letting them know it might not, go as smoothly as planned, or it might even go better. So, just kind of setting the bar that each person is individual, and just because this is how it's supposed to go does not mean that's always how it's gonna go. And so I guess that would be mine. Hopefully that made sense.
I mean, it did to me.
Okay, good.
Right, well, with that, we shall wrap up this episode. Thanks for joining us for Laura's continued journey on what's been going on with her foot. It's been a long one, and I'm sure it's still not over. So we'll probably do another update in maybe a month, 2 months, 6 months. I don't know. We haven't really decided yet, but we'll have an update.
When I actually start PT.
Maybe when you start.
I'm supposed to start that week 4. I might still schedule it, but I don't know if I'm
schedule. I mean, we'll see. But
yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoy the week or the weekend, depending on when you're listening to this. Don't forget to like, sub, do all the things. Check out our socials, share, and all that stuff. It's a long day.
Yep.
We're both tired. With that,
it is.
Take care. Have a great day. Good night.
All right. Bye, guys.
The information in this video or podcast is not intended nor implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. All content, including text, graphics, images, and information contained in this video or podcast is for general information purposes only and does not replace your professors or a consultation from your own doctor or healthcare professional.